Here with Colin Bennie, another great marathon run, top American, top 7. I guess first of all, what was your strategy going into this race, knowing the elements and just the field and what you wanted out of it yourself?
Yeah, I think going in there was a big part of me that wanted to feel sort of as good as possible, understandably getting through to the hills around, 19 miles kind of thing. There were definitely some moments today where I wasn't quite sure I was actually going to accomplish that, because some of the surges that were getting put in early on in the race, somewhere 6 to 15 miles kind of thing, were definitely leaving me feeling a little bit off. But came around at the right time, and it was just trying to run as steady as possible and didn't want to get sucked too far into going out too hard in the downhills. But Coach Fox got me prepared. We spent a lot of time running up and down hills in Charlottesville, so it ended up working out well to make sure my legs were ready to get beat up pretty bad out there today.
This is your first major marathon. Obviously did the trials and that marathon project. What was different about preparing for this race compared to the previous two?
I think there's just a little bit more to a world major for sure. There's even more excitement around it, and kind of a pretty neat thing to be able to say you're a top American or top 5, top 10 at one of these things. So to really kind of come in with that mindset is, I think trials, it was a dream to go get out of there top 3, but not really a reality for me, because being my first marathon. And so coming into this one, feeling a little more confident that I was, top American was something I could really sort of realistically shoot for, was a pretty motivating tool to get me through all the training. And being from Massachusetts, it was especially cool to have Boston be the first one and be able to have my first major be here.
Now that you've gone through 3 marathons, you've gone through 3 marathon trainings, and you kind of had 3 good ones after another. What are you putting on yourself these next 4 years as a full-time marathoner? Like, what do you think your ceiling is now that you have 3 under your belt?
That's a good question. I think anytime you have a chance to potentially run for top 5 at a world major is pretty spectacular. Obviously, we benefit a little bit from Olympics being that much closer, since there was the delay to 2021 because of COVID and the pandemic. So who knows? 2024 trials is definitely gonna be a big date on the calendar for me, and I think it's gonna be pretty exciting to have that kind of be sort of the culmination of another good few years of running.
Now that you kind of put your, you make your debut, you do well at the trials, and now you're top American and the major. What do you think the expectation is for you the next time you step on the starting line at your next major, whether it be the spring or next fall?
I feel like I put a lot of sort of pressure on myself to just kind of constantly improve. I think it helps sometimes to have some external pressure too, to just kind of remind you that sort of what you've done and where you've been, and remind you kind of the runner that you are. And for me, I think that's definitely going to go a long way and kind of keep me that much hungrier to make sure that the next marathon build up gets me even more ready for my next race, and end up trying to go in feeling even better about sort of shooting for top 5 or something like that.
One thing talking about is the U.S. American men and the marathon. So it's really Galen Rupp and then the field, right? And one unique thing is a lot of marathoners don't really get into it till late in their career. Do you think you're having an advantage by getting into the marathon at a younger age to get more under your belt so you can kind of hit the marathon in your prime?
That's a great question. I guess I'd like to think so anyway. I like to think that when you're focusing on the marathon, Coach Fox has always said, and I kind of agree with him to a pretty big extent, that it feels as though every marathon build and every marathon you race, as long as you don't get hurt, and sometimes even if you do, you come out the other side a stronger runner, and especially when you translate that to another marathon build. So having 3 builds, 3 races under my belt at this point, I feel as though it definitely helps. As you said, it's having tackled the unknown of a marathon and what those last 6 miles really feel like as early as I did, I think definitely kind of goes a long way in sort of helping to, make me feel a little bit more confident that, maybe I do have a leg up over your average 26-year-old. But as we've seen plenty of times, there are a lot of guys who come out in their first marathon and they kind of knock it out of the park even when, they're 28, 29 kind of thing. So it definitely depends, but I like where I'm at for having a few under my belt.
2022 Worlds is in Eugene. Has there been any thought about trying to make that marathon team? Typically, the top Americans don't really go for a world team at the marathon. What are you considering potentially running?
Yeah, I mean,
marathon?
It's definitely super exciting for it to be in the U.S. And I mean, having the opportunity to represent the United States is a dream come true for pretty much any runner, I think. Haven't really thought that far yet. It's kind of this was definitely a bonus to be able to get any fall major in this year. I think there was a certain amount of running marathon project last year where we weren't fully certain that it was going to be we were going to have these opportunities, and so definitely just kind of soaking this one in, and then we'll see what the future holds for other marathons or other races.
Cool. Last question. Are we going to see another Syracuse duo sometime on the course at the same time with you and Martin?
I sure hope so. I love running with Marty, and he's undefeated against me in marathon, so maybe I'll have to try to finish a little closer to him next time.
Cool. Well, best of luck in your next marathon, man.
Thank you so much.